Good morning, students. Welcome, all of you. This is the 14th module of our non-conventional energy sources. So, last module, as you know, we discussed the power regulation mechanism in wind energy mills. Okay, in which we have seen that when wind velocity changes, how the machine tries to or adjust itself to keep the power output constant. Okay, by using different mechanism, how the wind energy mill tries to or gives a constant output power, and various technologies are used for this purpose. Okay, so today in this module we will see as a very important law on which our modern wind energy mills are based. Okay, this is basically law, and this deals with how much energy is extracted from a wind. Okay, wind carries a lot of energy, and how much of that energy can be extracted or separated into electricity. It's very important. So whenever wind blows, it carry enough energy, a lot of energy, but you cannot convert whole wind energy into electricity. So there is a boundary, a barrier is there. Okay. So this law actually discusses about the barrier. Okay, how much of the wind energy? Okay, suppose 100 joule of energy is there in wind energy. How much of that can be converted into electricity? It's a very important law. So actually, this was formulated by a German physicist. Okay, so we will talk about that today. It's a law, a fundamental principle in wind energy technology. So that law, the fundamental law is called Betz law. Okay, Betz law. Betz was actually a German physicist. He was a German physicist basically. So he formulated this law. Okay. So Betz law indicates the maximum power that can be extracted from a wind blow. Maximum power. Okay, so wind has its own power, but the whole wind power you cannot convert into electricity. So there is a barrier. The theoretical barrier is there. It was discovered by Betz. So that is why we call it Betz law. Okay. Okay. So German. Okay, the full name is Albert Birds. He found or he derived this law in 1990. Okay, he is basically a naval physicist. You can call a naval architect. You can call an engineer. You can call him a physicist, and he was even a aerodynamic specialist. Okay, so in many areas he excelled. So essentially, he's a German. And this law, basically the Betz law is based on the conservation of mass and momentum principle. Okay, so when wind blow take place, law of conservation of momentum and mass should be fulfilled. Or in other words, you can say that Betz law actually he derived this law from the law of conservation of mass and momentum of blowing air. Okay, you just understand that. We will not go into the detailed physics. We simply understand the law, but you just understand that he derived this law from law of conservation and of mass and momentum of blowing air. Okay, so this is Betz actually. Some few remarks about the scientist Albert Birds, naval engineer, and he was a very pioneer in wind turbine technology, even in naval architecture. In you can sail boats. Okay, boats in ocean, or also wind turbine find enough applications. So he is a naval architect also. He wrote many articles, research articles on wind energy and its conversion to electricity. Or you can say that the modern wind power mills are due to Albert Birds. So many of his findings and discoveries have been included in modern wind energy mills. Okay, so Albert Birds. And he was an aircraft engineer during Second World War, and he contributed heavily for the aircraft, German aircraft engineering technology. You can call Lufthansa, for example, is a German aircraft company. So he contributed heavily for various aerodynamic technology. Okay, so that way also he is very famous, and he is currently famous for the Betz law. So what is actually Betz law? So the Betz law states like this. No turbine can capture more than 59.3% of the kinetic energy of a wind. So this is actually a restriction, a limitation, we can say. It's a theoretical limitation. So what does it say? It says that suppose your wind energy is 100 joule, okay, 100 units. Then it says that windmill, your windmill can maximum convert 59.3 joule of that energy. So the remaining 40% of joule will not be converted into electricity. Understand? So this is a maximum possibility. This is a maximum possibility, and how much we can get out of it, that depends on the technology you have used, how perfect your windmills are, how lubricants you are using, how advanced your technology is. If you have the best technology and best maximum perfect technology, you can derive a maximum of 59.3% of the energy from a windmill. Okay, so and this factor 59.3, suppose you divide it with 100, what you will get 0.593. So this value, this coefficient, we call it the coefficient. This coefficient is called Betz coefficient. It's a number also, Betz coefficient. Okay. So typical wind turbine can achieve as high as 75% to 80% of Betz limit. That means suppose 60% of the energy of wind can be converted into electricity, then 80% simply indicate that you can convert a maximum of 48 joule of energy. Suppose 100 joule is coming in the wind, the incoming wind it carry 100 joule, then you can convert a maximum of 48%, 48 joule of energy. Okay, that is what the Betz limit tell you. Okay, I hope this idea is clear. And this is schematically shown here. Suppose you have an input wave, suppose it carry 100 joule of energy. When that energy is converted into electricity by using a windmill turbine, you can get a maximum of 59 joule of energy. So that is the simplest version or simplest explanation of Betz law. Okay, simplest explanation. There is a lot of underlying mathematics and other detailed physics. For simplicity, we are leaving all those physical concepts here, and we will simply understand the basic law. So it is nothing but how much of wind energy can be. Betz law, in fact, discusses how much of the wind energy can be converted into electricity. That is all the Betz law discusses. So you can roughly understand that around 60% of the incoming wind energy can be converted into electricity. So this is simplest explanation of Betz law. Okay, and it will be fine to know that suppose you have a wind with a velocity v. Suppose the wind is falling on this propeller, the wind turbine. The circular patch is actually the turbine. Okay, this circular patch is shown. Okay, suppose its area, the area is swept out by the fan blades. Okay, so you can see in the figure, in the graphics also you can see it produces it tries out a circular patch. Okay, suppose the area of the circular patch is A, and suppose the density of the air is rho. So then you can calculate the power, the total power that this wind can generate. The total power that the wind can generate is half rho ABQ, where V is the velocity of the wind, A is the area of swept out by the turbine blades. Okay, and rho is the density. It's a very important equation used by engineers who design modern windmills. Okay, so it is given just for your understanding. Now let us switch over to another important topic, that is installation of wind power mills, criteria for site selection. Here we will discuss what are the important factors that we must be taken care of while installing a wind power farm or a wind power mill in a place. Okay, there are several factors that must be taken care of by experts, by social leaders and government agencies like that. So that will be discussed in brief now. So the first criteria is annual average wind speed. So wherever you are going to install the mill, you have to take a survey of the wind velocity available at that place. So there are machines available, instruments available. Using the instruments, the wind velocity you have to measure throughout 1 year. And even every month you have to make out measurements and find the average wind velocity available at that place. Okay, this is a survey process. It will take a lot of time. So this is the first process. You have to measure. You have to find out the average wind velocity available at that place. If the average wind velocity is less than 4 or less than 3, then that place is not suited for installing any windmill farms. Okay. So again, the second criteria, there should not be no tall obstructions within a radial distance of 3 kilometers. So that is very obvious. Okay, if there are tall buildings, tall structures, anything like that, so that may obstruct the wind. Wind blowing will be automatically obstructed, so the fan blade will not get enough wind energy. So that must be taken care of. No buildings, no such a topological or geographical structures. For example, hilltops or anything like that, small hills, mountains, such things should not be there. That is also very important. And most it should be fine if you select a plain slopy land or a open seashore. Slopy land would be available if you take some mountain ranges, the valleys of mountain ranges. Suppose if it is addressing an ocean, then constant wind blow will be always there. Such places are much suited. Or you can take open plain areas, for example the plain of Gangetic plains or any such plain areas. In many areas in Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Maharashtra, such slopy or plain lands are available in plenty, where such a huge windmills are now currently operational. And top of a smooth, well-rounded hill. Hilltop is also much suited, provided that you can take all the instruments, all the gadgets required for the turbines can be easily brought to that place. Otherwise, it would become very difficult. Okay. And again, altitude of the proposed site. If the altitude is too high, then it would be very hard to take all the gadgets because heavy instruments are there. You have already seen in many of the videos. So such instruments cannot be transported easily if the altitude is much high. Then we could not propose such an area. So and now local ecology, remoteness from sanctuaries, because if the such a windmills are installed nearby to sanctuaries, many problems may arise because there may be lot of bird population. So the fan blades are rotating with high speed, so that may hinder the migration of birds, and even they may produce slight noises. Fan blades may produce noises, many due to friction or anything like that. That may become a hindrance for the peaceful living of the animals in the sanctuaries. So these are big problems. Okay, and even nearby, you cannot install near to cities and where there are many inhabitants are there. Such places are not suitable. And even the places of naturally important places with a lot of vegetations, such places are also not suited. Farmlands, paddy fields. Paddy fields, of course, some area we can consider, provided there are no big trees, tall trees. Okay, such places are also suited. Closeness to roads and railways, because if the places, the selected places are far away from roads, transportation, then it would be very difficult to carry the instruments, equipments to that place. So it would be fine if such places are selected. For example, in Kanyakumari, there are many places which are very closer to the railways. Okay, we will we will go through some of the photographs in later slides. There is one famous windmill farms in Kanyakumari known as Muppandal windmill farms. That is one of the biggest windmill farm in India, and which is located in a nearby place to railways. Okay, so closeness to roads and railways or any other transporting systems are very important. Okay, Nature of the ground soil is also very important. This must be taken care of much because we have to install erect very tall structures for so where if ground is not strong enough, it cannot be properly installed because the basement has to be made up of concrete and all. So concrete structure may not be properly installed or properly built up if the soil is very swampy or mud like that. So soil structure is also very important. Okay, nearness of the site to end users. Okay, suppose once the electricity is start to generate, that the produced electricity should be able to supply to the population, okay, to the domestic consumption. So if the power generation source is far away from the places, then power transmission will be a very big problem. So one has to ensure that the windmills are very considerably, okay, reasonably closer to the cities or populated area, so as to make the project financially viable. Okay, otherwise financially it become a lossy affair. So that must be taken care of. So power generation and power supply, power transmission should be cost effective. That is very important. And favorable land cost. The land which is selected for the purpose should be available at a cheap rate. Otherwise, it may not be cost effective. Uh, because one of the important attraction of wind energy is that it is cheaply available. So if a land cost become an important factor, then the cheapness of the wind energy become not practicable. Okay, so that is these are the major criteria that must be taken care of while installing a or while selecting a site for installing windmill farms. Okay. So in the given map, you can see the potential wind power distribution in India. That means the major potential areas. These are potential areas, not probably farms are not installed. There are so many places you can see. All the dark places which are shown with the brownish shades, they are all potential areas in India. Okay, most of the spots around the Western Ghats, for example, Western Ghats are much suited for installing wind power mill. Even in many places in Gujarat and the Kutch Bhuj areas of Gujarat is also much suited for installing wind power. And similarly, the western regions of Rajasthan also very much apt for installing wind power mills. Okay, where all these places wind is sufficiently available in reasonably good velocity. And even the upper regions of Himalayas are also suited, but the problem of transportation and bringing the equipments, carrying the equipments finds a big problem. Otherwise, they are also much suited. And as far as the Western Ghats are concerned, already there are number of windmill farms in and around the Western Ghats. For example, nearby Tamil Nadu, we have one of the biggest windmill farm, and one is in our Kerala state, which is nearby to Idukki, that is called Ramakkal Medu. In Ramakkal Medu, we have a very good windmill farm, and rest of the windmills in the southern India is mainly located in Tamil Nadu, especially in the Kanyakumari district. And you can see one of the potential wind power capacity of different states in India, with the Tamil Nadu having the highest wind power production capacity with around 9,000 megawatt, okay, power capacity, and next comes the Gujarat with 7,200 megawatt capacity, and thirdly with Maharashtra. Okay, so in worldwide we have around we have the position around the fourth position. We stand. The India stands in the fourth position with wind power capacity, and more new power farms are coming up in different parts of our country. So because of the enough potential, okay, enough potential which are yet to be tapped. And this is a panoramic view of the Muppandal wind farm in Kanyakumari district, and it has a production capacity of around 1,500 megawatts. Okay, it is almost much bigger than the total power produced by the Idukki hydroelectric projects. Okay, this is a different view, and there is a rail nearby. There is a railway station, so the transportation problem of this farm is much resolved because of the nearness of this railway station. And this is the biggest wind power project in India so far, and many such projects are coming up, and that will be commissioned in very soon. And now let's see what are the advantages of WEX compared to other conventional source of energy like fuels. One of the important one is it supplies unlimited and free energy. Unlimited means there is no limit, okay, and it is freely available. We don't have to pay for anything other than the instruments. Cost of maintaining turbines and generating wind power is comparatively low. So that is very obvious. Okay, cost only need to have maintenance cost. Otherwise, no cost. Like for example, if you talk about a thermal power plant, we have to invest heavily in coal purchase or for purchase of diesel or any such fuels. But here we don't have to invest anything to the wind power. Okay, other than the instruments. So we say comparatively lower cost. Harvesting the kinetic energy of wind doesn't affect wind currents or wind cycles in any way. So that is another advantage you can say. When we take out energy from wind, nothing is lost. Even the wind blow is not going to stop. You know, Bird's law says that you can hardly extract 60% of the energy. Okay, the remaining energy is left as wind. So wind is not going to be stopped. So there is no local climate change going to be happen because wind is blowing every time, and there no effect on the wind currents also. So wind cycles everything exists as it is because the energy extraction doesn't affect the local climate. But that is not the case with the thermal power plant. You have to excavate huge amount of coal or huge amount of fuel from a place if you want to run a thermal power plant. Here there is no such problem. We don't have to disturb the nature, disturb the earth. So you can say it is an eco-friendly program. And emerging new technologies. So you know, day by day new technologies, new engineering marvels are coming up, and people are making use it to make it more and more perfect. So we can reach the ultimately the best limit, 60% or 59.8% limit you can reach for this new and new technologies. Various companies all over the world are in constant research over it. Okay, different companies are doing research over it, how perfectly you can extract wind energy to produce electricity. So people are in research over it. Okay, so it is not a saturated area, a perfect area still going on. It's an ongoing process. So new and new engineering technologies are coming up. So we are very much hopeful. We can be optimistic about wind energy in the coming decades or coming era, you can say. Potential source of future. So as you have seen that wind energy you can store in different ways. In one of the module we exclusively discussed different methods by which how wind energy you can store in certain forms. Okay, different technology we discussed. So it is obviously one of the potential source of future because we are developing new and new technology how to store the produced wind energy. So that is the reason. And clean and non-polluting. Obviously, we discussed it. Why it is clean, why it is non-polluting. That is very well. It is a self-explanatory thing. Does not contribute to global warming because there is no pollution, there is no smoke, nothing. no kind of surface degradation, soil degradation. So that way you can say that it is not contributing global warming. So, so these are the different reasons for why we take wind energy as best source of power in modern scenario. In so these are the books that we actually refer for our discussion. The first one is mentioned in your syllabus, known as non-conventional energy sources. This book is plainly available in our library. You can come and take the books from library. And another book is renewable energy sources and conversion technology, N.K. Bansal. I hope this is also available in our library. Or you can search in the internet. You will get a lot of resources. Another book is non-conventional energy systems by K. Mittal. These are three important books which deals with non-conventional energy sources in detail. Okay. So here is now the assignment. What are the important factors that must be taken care of while selecting a place for wind energy farms? So you try to discuss briefly different factors that must be taken care of while selecting a place. It's a very important question as far as your university examinations are concerned. Another important question is, what is Betts law? Explain it. Okay, you just give a very brief explanation of Betts law and write it. Okay. So with this, we conclude today's module. And I would also like to say that with this module, we have finished our second unit, that is on wind energy conversion systems. We completed the whole unit. And in the next module and in the next class, we will be talking about different other technology, different other methods used to produce energy from ocean. Okay. In ocean, in sea, there are various phenomena like tides are there, waves are there. So many ocean phenomena are there. Out of those ocean phenomena, we can extract energy, and in various parts of the world, different countries are making use of the technology by which they produce electricity out of various ocean phenomena like waves, tides, etc. We will discuss some of the such technologies in the next module. Okay, till then, all of you, thank you very much.